What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I did want to talk about something that has been popping up after the Volume 7 update on Unbound. That is simply going to come down to the fact that people are wondering when the next Need for Speed game will come out. Now, I was thinking about this a bit, and I think I might actually have a pretty decent prediction here. We all do know for right now, obviously, Unbound is going to be getting updates, and I would almost guess it probably is going to be getting updates into next year. But the question is, though, is Need for Speed going to come out in 2025? Now, I easily could jump into this right now and go, well, it's going to be a pretty short answer, and that's going to be a no. But a lot of players might be like, well, what do you mean, Block? Why is Need for Speed not coming out next year? I mean, we obviously do have Unbound getting updates, but like, why would the next Need for Speed game not be in 2025? So I do think there's going to be a few key factors here. Number one, we all do know right now Unbound apparently has around 30 developers working on it, whereas most of the other team on Criterion and everyone else is working on the next Battlefield game, which apparently is coming out in the fall of 2025, which honestly I'm pretty excited for that. Hopefully it's going to be good, even though they're going to have one big dilemma. Grand Theft Auto 6 is also coming out in the fall of 2025, so if I had to guess right off the bat, what are people going to buy? Well, I'm probably going to say Grand Theft Auto 6, unless Battlefield is going to be absolutely insane. Pretty much everybody is going to be buying that because Grand Theft Auto 5 came out, what, 11 something years ago or 12 years ago when GTA 6 comes out, so that would probably make sense, and it would also make a lot more sense for them not to release Need for Speed alongside with a Battlefield title, and on top of that, most of the dev team on that game can't even work on the next Need for Speed title because they are then going to be working on Battlefield. Now, right now, guys, I'm going to predict this. The next Need for Speed game will come out in 2026. Hear me out for a second. I think the next game will end up coming out in the fall of 2026. I feel like that would make a lot of sense. That way they can have time to work on it. We all do know most of that team, again, is working on Battlefield, so if I had to guess right now, the next Need for Speed title is probably pretty far away. Who knows, though? Maybe we might actually get like a remaster of Most Wanted 2012, or something insane might happen, and maybe Most Wanted 05 might come back. Who knows? I think it's kind of a possibility there. And I also feel like that could actually be a pretty strong thing that could happen, because if we look back at like the Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2010 remaster, a lot of people really loved it, so why not bring back Most Wanted or, you know, '05 and 2012? Do both. I mean, it's probably going to be around 2 years or so before we get the next Need for Speed game. Might as well put all that out there, am I right? I mean, imagine playing those on PlayStation 5. That would be so incredible, man. I would love it. The thing about this, though, is a lot of players are like, yo, 2026 for Need for Speed? You can't be serious, Block. Well, to be honest, guys, I feel like that probably makes the most sense. If we do think about this from like a different standpoint, yes, they are obviously working on 2042. We do not want the Need for Speed game to be, you know, probably rushed really hard again like Unbound was, to where it was probably out for a bit. The entire player base was like, yo, what is this, dude? We're missing police online. A lot of things are missing from the game. They're like, okay, well, we'll add it. The issue with that, though, is when you rush a game and release it unfinished, sometimes, yes, the game could come back from it like Cyberpunk, or in other times the game would end up getting scrapped when it had a ton of possibilities with it. And the funny part about this, though, is I think we can probably all think of a game recently that most likely went through something similar. I got one. How about Anthem? Let me know in the comments below of a game you guys can also think of, which I hate to say this, but in this day and age probably isn't that difficult to do. Now, the biggest thing about this, though, is I'd rather the game cook and most likely be developed a bit longer, that way it's better, and it most likely doesn't come out to where they have to fix the game for months on end, which I would almost say right now, doing that in 2026 is probably not going to be a very good way to release a game. I mean, we're doing that before in 2022 with the Need for Speed Unbound game, and then boom, in 2026, 4 years later, let's do it again. That's going to make a lot of sense, am I right, everybody? Probably not. And I feel like everybody at this point is probably looking for a good racing game to come out besides something like Motorfest or even Forza, or at least a game to actually compete with those games, which honestly the one I'm most excited for is going to be Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown, finally coming out in September. Can't wait for that game to actually come out. But at the same time, though, I'm like, alright, so we have all these great racing games. Need for Speed's obviously getting updated. It's great, man, because now there's actually going to be competition, different games to actually play, and they all have different experiences in them. I just feel like that's something we honestly need. That's why each game brings their own thing to like the table, to where everybody's like, okay, I like this, I like that about this game. and I kind of don't like that, but I like this in this game, I feel like that's something that is needed. And on top of that, though, I feel like at the same time, they can also go through each Need for Speed game and take out some positives and go, okay, players like this, they were not a fan of this, let's add this to the game, let's focus on that to bring more people in. Maybe something like this won't push players away from it. And here's a few examples of that. Let's just say they go into each Need for Speed game and pick a few things from each one that everybody liked. Obviously, in Most Wanted 2005 and even Need for Speed Heat, the police were insanely fun, so let's have that police system in there. And then maybe looking at like the initial multiplayer design, maybe look at something like Need for Speed Most Wanted 2012, and then build upon something like that, including the stuff that was in Heat and Unbound, and just make one of the best Need for Speed experiences ever. And the funny part about that, though, is I keep thinking about them taking a deep dive into every single Need for Speed game, taking all the positives out and pretty much putting everything into one. My goodness, can we be in for a treat? Now, I would like to know your thoughts on this in the comments below. What do you guys think the next Need for Speed game has to have, or at least some of the things they most likely have to do better than the previous titles?